I chose to write on the RCEP, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It's a free trade agreement led by ASEAN, and I'm going to basically explain to you how I believe that the RCEP can be seen as a liberal approach at first glance, but in actuality proves the realism theory to be true. This was really hard to research, by the way. Anyways, I will support my argument by highlighting that free trade agreements are created to promote regional integration, which is a liberal approach. However, the ultimate goal behind the RCEP is to be the regional power in the Asia-Pacific region rather than, like a game-changing FTA. So obviously I'm not a complete cynic. I do believe the RCEP was created, to promote trade liberalization and economic integration. I'm just focusing on its true motive, which I believe is regional power. So yeah, I hope you enjoy my video. Okay, so my argument emphasizes that the true motive for the development of the RCEP is to be the regional power in the Asia-Pacific region. So in other words, this liberal approach is being used to fulfill an ulterior motive that maximizes self-interest, proving realism to be true and ultimately stronger than liberalism. Okay, so what exactly is the RCEP? The RCEP stands for Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is a mega-regional free trade agreement, and it is led by ASEAN plus 6. ASEAN's 10 member countries plus Australia, China, India, Japan, South Korea, and New Zealand. It was first introduced in the 21st ASEAN Summit meeting in Cambodia on November 2012. It includes 3 billion people, which is 45% of the world population, and $20 trillion, which is 40% of world trade. It is currently still under negotiations, meaning it has not yet been finalized. According to the RCEP guidelines, its objectives are to achieve a modern, comprehensive, high-quality, and mutually beneficial economic partnership agreement among the ASEAN member states and ASEAN's FTA partners. It also declares that the RCEP will cover trade in goods, trade in services, investment, economic and technical cooperation, intellectual property competition, dispute settlement, and other issues. Just as any other free trade agreement, the RCEP has many advantages and disadvantages. One major advantage is the trade liberalization it provides through substantial reductions in tariff rates and trade barriers for member countries. Another one being its open accession clause, because it allows any country to become a member as long as they sign a free trade agreement with ASEAN. This amount of flexibility can be highly beneficial for the smaller and more undeveloped countries. Another perk being its better access to domestic markets in China, Japan, South Korea, and India, along with greater investment flows from more developed countries to less developed ones, which would help them become better integrated into regional economic activity. And last but not least, it will help boost the Asian economy indefinitely, which will help balance the expansion between Eastern and Western countries. Despite all of its strengths, the RCEP has many weaknesses as well. The greatest weakness of the RCEP is the spaghetti bowl effect, which is a complication that arises when signing many FTAs across numerous nations. For instance, ASEAN uses different tariff classifications for their tariff concessions, and their schedules vary per country. By the way, this is just for trade in goods. Also, the tariff concessions from the same country differ depending on which free trade agreement is involved. As for trade in investments and services, ASEAN has not even concluded these terms with certain member countries. For example, an agreement in trade services was reached in 2012 between ASEAN and Australia, New Zealand, China, India, and South Korea. Yet 4 years later, and an agreement still has not been reached between ASEAN and Japan. Another disadvantage is that the RCEP only focuses on reducing trade barriers, not eliminating them permanently, which may not be enough to encourage a free flow of goods and services in the long run. In addition, the negotiations of the deal are being held in secret, and when a chapter on the intellectual property right provisions was leaked, the public was enraged. Protesters consisting of farmers' groups, trade unions, civil society, and patient groups are urging the government to halt the negotiations, make the negotiation text public, and hold consultations with all relevant stakeholders. If the IPR provisions are approved, they can have negative impacts on access to medicines, livelihoods of farmers, and quality public services. Last but not least, it can increase the U.S.-China tensions and conflicts over the battle of the position of regional power in the Asia-Pacific region. order to understand the true motives behind the establishment of the RCEP, one must first fully understand both the liberal and realist theoretical frameworks in international relations. Liberalism is a theory that believes they can achieve peace through international institutions and economic interdependence. They also believe the national preference, cooperation, and institutions matter, as well as the commercial peace theory, which declares that economic interdependence will promote cooperation and peace, as well as the democratic peace theory. On the other hand, realism is the complete opposite. They believe they can achieve peace through national power and maximizing national interest. They also believe that it is human nature to crave for national power and compete against other nations. They believe in the state-centric and power-centric view, and that states are greater than international institutions, and that national security and military are more important than economic and other issues. Seeing as how the RCEP is a mega-regional free trade agreement, one can safely assume that the RCEP's intentions are solely based on achieving the goals described in liberalism, which are to promote global trade liberalization, regional economic integration, deepen interdependence among member countries, and improve relationships and form stronger alliances, which can be very helpful to achieve cooperation, which is an important goal for liberals. However, as the former World Trade Organization chief put it, by initiating the TPP, the U.S. wanted to prevent the transition of power from the Western to the Eastern Hemisphere, which will be led by China. The U.S. excluded both China and India from the deal in attempts to remain the hegemonic power by trying to contain China's rise. After this exclusion, ASEAN created a bigger and better deal affecting 45% of the world's population and 40% of world trade, which covers more ground and produces far more economic growth than the TPP. It's safe to say that China assumed the leadership role of the RCEP framework, as they are the biggest country with the largest economy in ASEAN, just as the US did with the TPP. Therefore, I believe the true motive behind the creation of the RCEP were to counterbalance the TPP and assume the role of the regional power in the Asia-Pacific region. The RCEP is more than just a free trade agreement. It is a strategic initiative to gain control of the Eastern Hemisphere. With China's leadership role and immense economy, the role the RCEP will play in the rise, if approved, becomes undeniably clear. In conclusion, although free trade agreements are tools created to achieve liberalistic goals, it is quite obvious that this deal's true intentions of obtaining regional power in the Asia-Pacific area are in compliance with realism. The goals that pertain to realism include power, control, self-interest, and relative gains. As a result, I believe the RCEP is a liberal approach being used to fulfill an ulterior motive that maximizes self-interest, proving realism to be true and ultimately stronger than liberalism. Hence the title of my paper, Realism Masked as Liberalism. Thank you for watching and good luck on finding.